of South Leitrim. He's been a member of Leitrim County Council for 13 years and recently ran on behalf of Sinn Fein in the Roscommon South Leitrim by-election, where he substantially increased our vote. Formerly a member of the party's Cllr and recently selected to run for Sinn Fein in Sligo Leitrim, I'm proud to introduce a friend and fellow comrade, our general election candidate, Councillor Martin Kenny.
Raise this a little bit. First of all, I'd like to say I'm very proud to be here today, along with you, to honour the Noble Six. On the Bin Bulbul mountain behind us, these 6 men were cut down in cold blood by the Free State forces. And you know, it's one of I suppose, the most horrible things that happened at any time during that civil war, what happened to those 6 men. We remember them today, but we also remember that 99 years ago, young men like them and women across the length and breadth of this country came together in small groups and discussed the possibility of a different Ireland, the possibility of a new future. Trade unionists, activists in the farming movement, women's groups, Republicans, nationalists, they all spoke of what different Ireland there could be. And they came together in a loose alliance, and their declaration was read out on the steps of the GPO in 1916, and everything changed. It changed for the 6 men that we honour here today, and for hundreds and thousands more like them. And it changed for all of us too, and for the generations yet to come. Because what they'd done that day was declare something different, something new. They declared that the old way was going to come to an end, and that a new possibility was not only a possibility, but was an inevitable outcome of their actions. Because they didn't just make a declaration, they acted on it. They took up arms and they fought against the British Empire, an empire that stretched the length and breadth of the world. Everywhere that the sun shone, the British Empire reigned. And everywhere they went, the cloak of slavery also ruled. They smothered whole countries. They destroyed whole civilizations, all in the name of an empire and of a queen and a king, and some might that they felt they had. A number of years ago I was in Scotland, and I remember being in the town of Stirling, and there was this lovely little garden, and it was all immaculately kept, and it was a lovely green area and flowers all around it, and at the end of it there was this statue, this bust to this guy, I forget what his name was, Brigadier General something, and at the bottom of it it said, "Who kept rebellion at bay in the Bengal." And I thought to myself, what the name of God right did this man think he had to go to the Bengal or anywhere else to keep those people enslaved? What right do they think they had to rule the world? What right do they today think they have for to hold 6 of our counties on this island and call it a part of their United Kingdom? It is not, and it never will be. But all of that those men done and those women done in 1916 would mean nothing if we did not continue their work today. And we do. We continue to work to ensure that Irish freedom will not only come, but it will flourish. I remember a number of years ago I was at an event in America, and this lady that was there was talking about how she worked with people across Latin America who at that time were struggling for agrarian rights, for the rights of the small farmers to have a little bit of land to grow their own crops and feed their children with. And she said that everywhere she went in Latin America, people talked about the Irish and about Monsignor Davitt, Michael Davitt, and the Land League. Because in all those parts of Latin America, Irish missionaries had gone and had told them about their plight there was the same as Ireland's plight 50, 60, 100 years ago. That the Irish people had rose up and fought against the landlords. Landlordism in Ireland was nothing more than slavery without the shackles. But it was broken, and they won. And they were an inspiration to the world, and are still an inspiration today. And also the men in 1916 are the same inspiration. And that brings me on to the controversy that we hear in recent times. We have cheerleaders of British imperialism like John Bruton telling us that it is wrong to commemorate 1916, that we commemorate violence. Yet for the last 3 or 4 years, he's been a cheerleader that why are we not commemorating the Great War? Well, the Great War was 15,000 times more violent than 1916. Millions of people were slaughtered, murdered by British imperialists and German imperialists and Dutch imperialists and whatever other imperialists you want to choose. Why? Because those imperialists were greedy and they fought over the spoils of their empires. And unfortunately people from this island, many of them in British uniforms, for all sorts of reasons went and were slaughtered there too. And it is not that we dishonour their memory, but it is that we cannot place those who fought on the side of an empire in the same category as those who fought to defeat that empire. Nor will we ever. John Bruton and his ilk have another thing to come if they think that Irish Republicans are going to stop commemorating those who fought for Irish freedom. Let that be in the 1980s and the 1990s, or in the 1880s and the 1890s. We will not give up on Ireland. We will not give up on the spirit of freedom that was declared on the steps of the GPO. Because it is not about people. It is not about people who are in charge of anything. It is not about victories. It's about the spirit of all of us. It's about building a new empire. Not an empire of grand people that will roll all over the world, telling us how much money they can earn. Their only principle is profit and looking after the well-connected. Unfortunately, they're the people who are in power in Ireland today. The empire we want to build across the globe is an empire of free people. Free people that will have a country and a world that will provide for them, for everyone. Last year in Ireland, in Leitrim, we had a book published about republicanism in County Leitrim. And there was an interesting little extract in it, and I just want to read it to you. Pat has it here. And it was actually about the men on Ben Bulben. And it was a new part of history that I certainly didn't know about. In Cllr barracks, there was a document found in the military archives recently. And it was written by a Free State soldier who was on the mountain that day. And he said, "I was one of the party of Free State soldiers, 56 in number under the command of Captain McGoohan, a native of Ballinamore, County Leitrim, and Captain Sexton, a native of Longford. The party ascended Ben Bulben Mountain on the morning of the 20th of September 1922. When the top was reached, a party of 4 men were sighted. When the McGoohan, who had worn an ordinary cap, went forward some distance in front of the Free State troops and signalled to the 4 men, waving his cap, and shouted at them to come on. The 4 advanced, and when about 50 yards away, were halted by the main body of Free State soldiers, who up to then had concealed themselves. The 4 men, apparently taken by surprise, halted and were ordered to surrender. This they did, and they were disarmed. The prisoners were identified as Brian McNeill, James Devons, Patrick Carroll, and Joseph Banks. After some consultation between McGoohan and Sexton, they apparently decided to shoot the prisoners. As members of the troops that were there were asked to form a firing party to shoot them, the Free State soldiers refused to do so. McGoohan saw the reluctance in his men for the task and said, "It does not matter, as I have a Lewis gun and I will do the work." That day he took out the Lewis gun and he shot the 4 men in cold blood. 2 others were shot later on the mountain. To me, that is probably the saddest and the most terrible thing that happened in the Civil War. And I suppose it's a little bit of a cloud, certainly over Ballinamore, although we have many things to be proud of in that part of the country, that the man that done it was from one of our own. But that was the past. And while the past is something that I suppose we have to look to and try and gain inspiration from, we also have to understand that what we are here today about is the future. It is about tomorrow. It is about understanding. Wait a little break there. We publish big books in Leitrim. The future is what it's all about. And the future is why we're here. We're here to create the Ireland that those 4 men died for. That the other 2 men after them were died for. That the Noble Six and that list of people that were read out here from County Sligo lost their lives for. We're here to ensure that their lives were not in vain. I remember Joseph McManus around Sligo town here when he was cycling a bicycle up and down through it. He should be with us here today. My father often talks about Kevin Cohn, how he used to stay in our house. Unfortunately, I'm too young to remember it. But you know, those people, they were just ordinary people. But they believed in and wanted something different. And they gave their lives for it. Today, nobody has to give their lives for the future that we want. But we all have to give a little bit. We all have to come out and work for it. And over the next 12 months, there will be elections. And in those elections, Sinn Fein will be going forward with a message. And it will be the same message as was read out on the steps of the GPO by Pearse. It will be the same message as Pearse read out when he stood at the grave of O'Donovan Ross 100 years ago. And we need your support to make that message a reality for the next generation and the generations to come. To ensure that imperialism is once and for all defeated. Recently I met a lady who does a lot of work in Africa. And she was telling me about in the Congo and different places like that she goes around meeting all these different groups. And you know, she talked about the coming down to the Berlin Wall and how that was seen and how it was presented, certainly in Western media and everywhere else, as such a huge thing that happened and was the end of communism. And it was so symbolic, the reunification of Germany. You know, when she said to me, for countries around the world who have lived under the yoke of British imperialism, for countries around the world who have been savaged by colonialism, the reunification of the Irish nation will be the greatest symbol that imperialism is gone forever. And that is an objective which not only do we declare, but we will act to bring about. And we will need all of your assistance in that action in the next 12 months during elections, and everywhere else you go, whoever you meet, whoever you talk to.